So good morning and welcome to our first session for the job searching day of the Winter Intercession Career Development Academy. Today's topic is going to be on reframing your job search. And what we're going to give some time to kind of talk about the different ways, common ways that people usually think about job searching, but then also to allowing for just a different mindset to have when thinking about your job search. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Everybody can see my screen now. So what we're planning to just kind of cover first is to speak a little bit about what are the most common places that you would be looking for jobs. And it's some of it is things you might already know, maybe some other places you haven't thought about it. And then to kind of reframe the thinking with it and thinking that it's a two-step process. And then to talk about a more effective way to do this job search. So really thinking about how networking and information interviewing can be vitally important in all of this. And then to think about just a way to kind of keep it all together, because the job search, there's a lot of different things you can find out, a lot of different things you could figure out along the way, but we'll give you an idea of something and share with you a resource at the end to help you kind of keep track with that, and then time for Q&A. I will say, if you would like to, feel free to put something into the chat. And then I would also say too, what we can allow for is, definitely time at the end for you to unmute yourself and be able to ask questions along the way. All right, so with that, we'll go. So first, I just want to talk a little bit about some, just job trends. And I think many of us that are in public health, we can kind of know, like, there are jobs out there, but it is, good to kind of see, where there are increasing, job prospects, at least from an employer perspective. So NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, believe that there's going to be a 26.6% increase of hiring of graduates to the 2022 class. And then if we look at the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, just in healthcare, and that's usually what public health falls into. There are going to continue to be, trends and increases in kind of what's out there. So, know that there's probably no lack of jobs out there. They might not be the jobs that you want, but with some kind of very deliberate and very kind of strategic way of thinking about it, you should be able to find different types of job opportunities and things to apply to. So now we're thinking about most common places to kind of look for jobs. And so what I would like to do real quick is to open up a poll, just to, some common places that you might think about when you are doing your job search. So if you could kind of enter in here where you think some of those things are. If you think it's something different, put something here into the chat. But what we could allow for is, just to kind of get a perspective where everybody kind of thinks about looking for jobs. So, yep. Numbers will keep going. All right. So it's obviously looking like a lot of people are looking at kind of LinkedIn as certainly one place. So I love to hear kind of that. People also too looking at Indeed. And then let me check the chat. Google, UN Jobs, Relief Web. Yep, also. So let me can you see the job? Well, I'll just read it off to you if you can't see it here, but LinkedIn had 88% of us thought Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and then also to Monster.com and also Glassdoor. And so, just in talking about each of these, so I kind of brought these up if you don't know about them, to make you aware of them. So Indeed obviously is one place you can go to look for jobs. And know, yeah, I typed in epidemiologist, a lot of things come up. You can type in public health, some things might come up. You might get public health nurse, might get public health specialist or something like that. But that's a place, where you will see a lot of jobs. Maybe they're not all related to the areas that you're interested in. And then too, there's also ZipRecruiter. So obviously ZipRecruiter will say that they are the #1 ranked or #1 rated place for employers to post jobs. They have tons of different types of opportunities and things like that. But what you can kind of know here is like, this is where employers are posting jobs. So obviously that would be an important place that you as a job seeker would be going to look for jobs as well. And another one is monster.com. So again, you'll see here a lot of this might not necessarily, there'll be a lot of jobs, but they might not necessarily be the jobs in the areas that you're looking for. There might be things that are in retail, which not many people in public health are interested in, or in sales or in IT. But yes, there's going to be lots of job things you can find in here as well. Another one I want to bring up is flex jobs. So this is another one that you can kind of look at for anybody looking for a flexible job. And knowing that all of us right now are in this virtual environment, and it's something that I believe is going to be continuing for at least the foreseeable future, and then even going forward. So it's a good idea to also to pay attention to where you can find remote, hybrid, flexible jobs, and looking for places in terms of what types of employers are looking to fill those roles. And that might be another place to look for here. And then if you haven't used Glassdoor, or you're not familiar with what Glassdoor is another great place to look for jobs. It also too is a great place to do research on companies. It's also too a great place to get salary information or get advice about careers and things like that as well. But this is again another place where you're going to find a lot of jobs that are posted. And then obviously the one that we hit highest on our poll was LinkedIn. So a lot of people now, in addition to using LinkedIn as a way to network, which I'm going to be talking about, I'm also, knowing too that a lot of employers are posting their jobs in here. A lot of people are finding jobs through here as well. And you can, if you're actively using LinkedIn, you not only to just search for the jobs, but search for people, this is going to be a place that you're going to be familiar with. With this said, and with LinkedIn and with all these, you also too have to kind of think is like, these are very broad job boards that you're looking for. But what about some of the more public health oriented ones? So publichealthjobs.org is one that is through the ASPPH. And you can find in here that there are lots of different job opportunities for anybody that's interested in public health. Obviously, the American Public Health Association, their Public Health Career Mart is another great one that constantly has jobs being posted in here as well, and jobs again that are going to be very public health oriented, whether in in various industries, whether it's academia, nonprofits, government as well. ASTO, which is the Association of State and Territorial Health. This is another, or I'm sorry, Association of State and Territorial Health Officials. This is another one too that posts a lot of different jobs, both at local levels, maybe federal levels, but also too just public health jobs in general. And again, you can do the keyword search, or you can search by location, any number of different places. If you're looking for work, kind of outside of the US, or looking for or outside the US, DevX is definitely one that you can look at. You can look at Interaction, their NGO job board, to search in there as well. You can look for remote jobs, work from home jobs, in looking for work out, in different organizations that do work globally. Relief Web is another job board that you can look at, Global Health Council. So there's a lot of different places that you can go and look for jobs, and a lot of different resources that you can find to do the job search. What I find to be very overwhelming with this, or let me go first to talk about Handshake. So Handshake, if you're not familiar with, is our university system that we use. So all of our schools within Johns Hopkins use Handshake. This is where all of our schools will post jobs, will post information from employers. I think right now Handshake has something like over 600,000 employers that are kind of in the system. About over 1,400 colleges and universities that are using their platform. Employers like this because they can post a job in one place and then kind of spreads out to all the different colleges and universities and all the different student profiles that are in there. If you haven't used it yet, I would encourage you to log into your Handshake profile. You can build information in there. You can search for jobs in there. You can set up job alerts for yourself. So if things are getting posted you're interested in, you can go in there and use that as well. And again, it's another job board that's going to be posting jobs and letting you know when there's opportunities that are kind of coming up as well. But if we start to think about the kind of reframing with it, so kind of what I was getting to a little bit is that there's a lot of job boards out there. There's a lot of places that you can search. There's a lot of places that aren't necessarily going to give you back the information that you may want or give you back information that's going to be useful to you. So you can find out about a lot of opportunities, but then what are you going to be able to do with them? And then how are you going to be able to kind of focus what those opportunities can mean and what it can mean for you in terms of what you're looking for. So now I would like you to kind of think about your job search a little bit differently. So I'd like you to think about your job search is not about only looking for job titles. So when you use those job boards, that's generally what you're looking for. You're going to be typing in like I had done, epidemiologist, and see what kind of comes up there. But not every job title is going to be a good match for what you'd want, or not every opportunity that's going to be listed is going to be something you want. So I'm going to encourage you not to think about your jobs that. But I'm going to ask you to think about this as just a starting point, as a way to gather information, as a way to kind of see, well, what is out there right now? Jobs change, week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, whatever it may be. Some things are going to be consistent, some things are going to kind of change. I remember one piece of information from a long time ago from an employer that was doing an information session, and a student asked, well, I look at the jobs that you have, and I don't see anything that works that is a good fit for what I'd want. And what she was saying is you have to think about when you're looking, that's a snapshot in time. And so, their organizations are maybe constantly changing their job opportunities and the job boards and the things that they are putting out into these different places on their own website or other places. But you should just know it as a way to kind of get a sense of what places seem to make the most sense for you. What I'd like you to kind of think about is job searching is more about looking for places and then looking for people in those places. So if you kind of think about it as that the job search is, what types of organizations or what types of sectors of public health work would I be the most interested in wanting to work in? And then if it is, then how can I find the people? And we want to think about the people part of it is kind of this networking piece of it. So this idea is how can I allow for a job search that I can very much tailor to what I'd want? And then how can I tailor it down to the types of places that I want to work for? And then how can I tailor it down to the people that I want to talk to that are doing that work? And as you kind of narrow down more, do this kind of reverse pyramid approach for it, it takes this vast place of job searching and make it a bit more manageable for you. So if we think about this in terms of the sense of that, I'm not thinking about the job titles, but I'm thinking about the places, then we want to start to think about where can you find, where are the places that you can work? So where to look? All right. So one place that I can tell you can start is things that our office has done. So our office, over the fall had a number of different information sessions. Different employers came to do virtual sessions to talk about their organization, what they do. Some of them may have been alumni that are actually talking about the work that they do, or some of them were just giving general information. But these are the ways, again, to kind of gather that information and learn to see what it is. And what you'll notice with this is a very diverse group: federal agencies, nonprofits, healthcare organizations. So this idea is that, getting an idea of, it's more of an elimination of what do you don't want to do, as so much to say what it is that you do want to do. Another good place to look at is our public health career fair. So our career fair it's coming up on Friday, March 4th. This will be another place where you can learn and get information about organizations that are, looking for public health graduates to do work. And we'll be sending a lot more information about this, throughout the next few months. Who's coming, information about the employers and things like that. But we can also share with you, like, who are the organizations that did attend last year's fair, And that can also to give you a starting point of kind of where to look. I can also to share with you, within our office, these are organizations that we've worked with either recently through the career fair last year, who we hope to have back for the career fair this year. But this is to another list of these different types of organizations in different sectors of work. And don't worry about writing these down. I will follow up with everybody that's here with a list of the slides and the different types of organizations as well. So you'll be able to kind of go back through and search these. But again, in any of these that you're looking at, whether it's academia research, whether it's a consulting company, what I'm suggesting to do here is to say, oh, well, here's a company. Let me do a little bit of background research on them, see if I think that they are fit for what I might want to do. And then I can go to their job listings, but I'm actually going to tell you to kind of pause and hold off on that. I mean, you can look to see what's there, but don't think that's the only step in this process. It's not getting to the site and looking for places. It's actually going to be getting to the site, and then from there, looking for who you can find at a place that you may be interested in. So again, non-governmental organizations, these large number that fall into this, nonprofits, and then more nonprofits as well. And nonprofits too can be thinking about local and international as well. So if we think about, narrowing down for yourself and kind of what you believe makes the most sense, you have to then kind of think about, well, what are then the best ways to be able to think through who are the people that I want to learn stuff from. So the idea then with step 2 of this is, where do the alumni work? And so what I can share with here, and again, these same kind of industries, these are some of the job titles that people have, and not necessarily say, well, I should search that job title, but I can look to say, well, there is a chance that there's an opportunity to work at a place like this, and I'm curious now to know what that role would look like. So if it's an academia research, within our school of public health, these are different roles that people have. Well, now I want to look for people that I can learn a little bit from about what they do in their role. And then outside of in other academic institutions, and academic and research roles don't necessarily have to be professor. You're not looking for a tenure track position, but there's a lot of other roles within academia and research that you can certainly look at. If it's consulting, these are some of the job titles that people may have. So this is based, also too, I should mention, based on our career outcomes report of 2020 with from alumni about these are the places that they're working and these are the different job titles that they have. Again, federal government, various agencies within the federal government, these are the roles that people have had. These are, if any of this is an agency that you would be interested in, you can look to see, well, how can I find alumni that are doing that work? If it's in the area of healthcare, whether it's working for an organization that does maybe health research work, maybe it's working for a hospital system, maybe it's working for a pharmaceutical company. It's dividing these things up into sectors and looking for different job titles. This is a way to make that job search a bit more useful for you and more targeted. Student local government, you'll see it's a lot of epidemiologists, maybe it's a specialist, maybe it's somebody doing surveillance. Nonprofits, it could be a research assistant, somebody doing communications, a program officer. But what I can think about with all of this is, as you kind of progress with this idea of like the organizations, how do I find the people that I want? And so this is where I would say next, the LinkedIn part of this is going to be really important. So connecting with people, and we're going to be talking about using social media in your job search later in one of our sessions later today. But you have to kind of think about, the searching for people through LinkedIn is a very important thing to want to do. Another resource that you can use is OneHop. So yesterday, Casey Miller from Hopkins Connect, he talked about kind of leveraging OneHop for building your network. And it's the same idea. It's like, okay, here are some organizations I'm interested in. Well, now, how can I find the people that are there? Can I find Hopkins alumni there? Can I find Bloomberg alumni that are working there? And this is another resource that you can have for that as well. So if we begin to kind of get this mindset of, I'm not looking for a job title, but I'm looking for a place and I'm looking for people, it's really going to help allow for you to get a better sense of what could be available to you. All right, so I'm going to take a second here to see if there's any questions. I can allow people, if they would like to unmute themselves, or you can put something into the chat. Well, then I'll keep on going. And then if you do have a question, feel free to put it here into the chat as well. So now I want to kind of focus and talk about networking. And I try to think about networking, and I know it's a term that's used a lot, and it's really encouraged, from our office, and then you might hear it from other people too. But I almost have to think of it as if there is a most effective use of your time as a job search tool. Networking can be the best one that you can have. So if we think about networking, these are some of the common definitions of networking, which is an informal exchange of information or meeting people in a new business context. This is usually what we traditionally have always thought about networking is you go to a networking reception or you go to an event or even a career fair. It's a networking opportunity as well. And you're doing this, kind of meeting people in a very professional sense. But I want you to really think about networking in a slightly different way as well. So I want you to kind of reframe your thinking on this. Is think about networking can be just simply talking and listening to people while developing relationships around common interests and experiences. So this idea is that, networking can be one of these things to where you have a common experience with somebody, or you have something that you're interested in, and then you can reach out to them and have a conversation with them about what they do. So if you allow for the opportunity, you allow for the space to be able to kind of know, well, there's maybe people I already know that I could utilize as resources or to get information from for my job search, then I'm going to be able to allow for more people to be aware of what my job search could be. So networking is really important because, 15% of the available jobs that people fill are through those job boards that we talked about at the beginning. 85% of the jobs that people usually fill, meaning that organizations, when they are hiring, they prefer to have some sort of a referral. They prefer to have some sort of a connection. So anybody that is doing the hiring, if they know you before you apply, they're really going to feel more, there's going to be more incentive for them to help you get that job that they're looking to fill. So a lot of times people can think about networking and being at the right place at the right time. I was just really lucky. I heard about it from somebody else. All that is true. But I think in reality, what they're really doing is they are kind of actively paying attention to ways that they can learn more from somebody else or learn more from what somebody else has done and letting more people know about that. So if we think about networking, a lot of times networking can be very, very intimidating. This idea of kind of putting yourself out there, getting out of your comfort zone, asking somebody to do something for you, feeling like you have to be kind of a salesperson for yourself, or that you have some sort of a hidden agenda with what you're doing. All of that can make this kind of networking not feel like it's something you might want to do. And what I want you to kind of think about is think about networking in the sense of I'm just trying to plant the seed in somebody's head about what I'm interested in wanting to do. I'm not pressuring them to do my job search for me, but I'm just giving them a sense of, hey, these are the things I'm looking for. So if something does come across their radar, they can let me know. You can also think of networking as a very good way as to build advocates. So these people can be your spokespersons within an organization. They can speak highly for you. So this idea that they are, ones that can introduce you maybe to somebody else, or they can allow for you to know about an opportunity. And some of the best ways to kind of break the ice for networking, because it might not feel like you want to kind of do just that, is to do an information interview. And I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But you have to put it in the context of, I'm doing this kind of outreach and information interviewing for the ultimate purpose of getting a job. But it is going to be, kind of a step. I have to find the right places, I have to find the right people, and then I have to think about, what it is that I'm asking them for. I'm not asking for a job, but then I'm moving, closer and closer, and inching closer to a job opportunity. So if we think about information interviewing, again, this idea of creating advocates. So what you actually want to do is you want to have somebody that's working within an organization be your eyes and ears, so that if they hear about something that somebody is leaving a role, then they can let you know about that, and say, hey, keep an eye out for this job that's going to be posted. I think it might be a good fit. Or if they come across something in a meeting or something that's posted, or maybe they have an internal job board, that they are, because companies will incentivize their employees to find people to come work for them. So this idea too is that if you can let a few people know, instead of you being that one person looking for all things, you can now create 5 new people that are also too looking for that, and then it just expands the reach of what it is that you can find. We can also think that network information interviewing is really helpful is what I call their influential introductions. So this idea is that somebody that you know or that you've connected with, they might be able to do kind of a stamp of approval to meeting with somebody new that you have no connection with whatsoever. So this idea of having somebody, kind of be your handoff to somebody else that they know. You have to think about the people, other people that you know could know many more people than you know, and using them as ways to get connected with them is really important. So this idea is that if you might not necessarily get in the immediate when you do some information interviewing a job lead or something, but they can later on introduce you to somebody else. Or you could identify somebody that you think would be great to talk to, and you can ask that person that you know, hey, would you mind making an introduction for us so that I could carry on a conversation with them? So this idea is that, use people that you know or that you connect with to kind of get get your foot in the door or get a chance to have a conversation with somebody so you can allow for you to then build another person that, could be an advocate or an influential introduction to somebody else. So we think about how to approach the information interview. And again, this is that reframing of what we're talking about. The job search is never about, or an information interview is never about asking for a job. So this idea is that, you don't want to feel that anybody's being pressured to kind of look for a job. You're not just trying to get contacts, but questions you want to avoid when you're talking to somebody is to say, can you tell me what open positions you have at your organization? That's very short-sighted. That's very limiting. They may not know, or they're not in the position to be able to hire. Or are there any openings that I can apply to? Again, that's you kind of coming across as being more focused on me, or kind of it's all about what I'm looking for. But you want to allow for somebody to be able to, maybe build connections for you or offer that they're going to do that for you. Or if you're going to be very direct and say something like, is there anyone I can talk to about jobs? Again, that's generally going to be something that's going to be very off-putting for somebody. So you want to, think about reframing your questions in a slightly different way. And I'll talk a little bit about kind of questions you can ask, but anything that's like job related in your questions that you ask are usually things that I would suggest to avoid. You want to think about doing an information interview. Think about yourself as a reporter, so trying to gather information. So think about, it's not about trying to sell yourself, but you think about more fact-finding, open-ended questions. So if you're happen to talking, to somebody to say, can you, how did you get to be in the role that you're at? Everybody has a story that can explain how they got to the position that they're at. What was your career trajectory, or what in general is a career trajectory for somebody that goes into this work? Maybe it's not about them, but they can speak more generally. If you happen to talk to a Bloomberg alum, you can say, what ways did you believe that your epidemiology training helped you in the role that you're doing now? Or, how did just overall the training that you have gotten fit, or prepare you to do the work that you'd want to do? You can always ask for advice. So you can always ask somebody to say, as a graduating student, what advice would you give, or what would you wish you had known to do while you were here, or something like that. People, would, usually can give you information about that. If you're very curious about the work that they do day to day, say, what does your day look like? You can talk generally. What is the organization? What is the culture of the organization? What do teams look like when you're in this organization? So again, these are all kind of fact-finding questions to where you're not directly asking somebody to say, hey, tell me about the jobs that you have that you think I should apply to. But you're more wanting to know about them as the person, wanting to know a little bit more about them and their organization and what they do and kind of what their career path has been. So again, this idea, like I was saying before, about planting the seed, your questions are open-ended to get to know the person first. You're not trying to sell, but the key thing you want to try to do here is you're just trying to build a rapport. And then you can start to suggest ways they might be able to help you out. So I usually think the way that this kind of conversation goes is it allows for first you to learn about the person, and then the person is usually going to kind of reciprocate that back to say, what are you interested in? Or they might, even say, what is it that I can help you out with? But if you can kind of think about this idea is that you're just planting the seed in someone's head that so that they know what you're interested in, so that when things do come up, maybe a month later, 2 months later, they'll be able to come back to you and say, hey, we hear, there's a potential opportunity here. Is this something you think you might want to do? So, it is a little bit more indirect process, but it is one that I think can be highly effective. And then lastly, with information interview, you want to think about active listening. So when we are doing information, or if you are doing an information interview, two things to kind of keep in mind. People like to talk about themselves, and especially if they like the work that they're doing, they're going to be more than happy to share what it is that they know. And you have to kind of think about too, anybody that's doing public health work, they're interested in getting more people involved in doing the public health work. So they are going to share and give that information. And then you also too have to think about people love to give advice, even if it's not something that you'd want to take. So this idea is that, if you come to somebody with, an idea that I think that you're a good resource of information, or I'd like to learn something, advice is free. Nobody has to feel pressure to give advice. But at the same time, it's usually things that sometimes, will be very, very useful in your job search, things you didn't consider, new things to kind of know. So, and then, like I say, they will help out when they can, or they'll be very upfront with you and say, I'm not in a position to hire anything right now, but I will certainly let you know if something can. Or if they are able to help, what they then can help to do is that if you do apply, maybe beforehand, they're going to review your documents. Maybe they're going to review your application materials to make sure that it matches well with the job. Or they're going to help once your application materials have been received, to help to make sure that your information gets seen by the right people or move through the process. So this idea that, when you can give somebody an idea that what they're doing can be helpful for you, you can also too think about they will try to help you be seen by the people within the organization. But you always want to think about when the listening part of it is, think about in the conversation, what are the ways that you connect? What are the ways you can build a rapport? What are the ways that you can allow for that person to almost kind of, think of you as a potential colleague? So you really want to kind of be paying attention to that there. And then you're always going to be respectful of their advice and their suggestions. Like I say, not every individual's advice is going to be useful. But what you want to say is like, I thank you for your time. These suggestions are really great. It's giving me a lot to kind of think about. And if it would be okay with you, I'd love to kind of follow up if there's more things that come to mind afterwards. Another thing you can do with this, and I don't know if I have it later in here, is you can also to think about is, what somebody says might not be useful, but you can also to always say, well, if you happen to think of anybody else you think it would be good for me to talk to, I would love to have an e-introduction to them as well, so I can carry on a conversation with them. And that oftentimes too is a very easy ask. So again, the getting started with the kind of doing the information interview. So going back to what I had mentioned before about LinkedIn. So in doing the job search, you're using LinkedIn as a way to find alumni. And the best place to kind of go with that is to start with our school's LinkedIn alumni page. And by going into this page, you can filter your searches in a number of different ways. So you can filter it by a job title or a company, or maybe you're just looking for recent graduates. You can also search it by geographical location. So if you wanted to choose Baltimore, Washington region, or if you're physically located on the West Coast, you can do it that way. The location used to be more important before everything was virtual. Now I think it becomes less important. But you can also narrow down a search from there as well. If you think about the job searching, looking just for the organization, you could use the search filter here, or you can type it into the box there. You type in Food and Drug Administration, then you'll see all the alumni that fall within there. You can also do searching by what they do in terms of the sector of work that they're in, or what it is that they study. And when you build this, what you're going to get from it is, suggestions of LinkedIn profiles that you can connect with, or It's not even to connect, it's also to just to get information. Could you just look through someone's LinkedIn profile and see, well, when they finished with their MHS degree in health economics, what was the first job that they took? And then what was the second job after that? And what was the third job after that? So you can also to just in doing your homework, learn about somebody and not necessarily even have to reach out directly to them. And then you can also do a search by what they're skilled at, and then also to how you build connections with them. So first level connections are always going to be the people that you have connected with directly. Second level connections are people that that know somebody, and then third level are going to be broader ones there. But you can, the first level connections, you have to kind of think of those folks are kind of digital Rolodex. So as they change jobs and they do things differently, you're probably going to be updated on that if you did a search of them or something like that. But second level connections, you're usually going to be wanting to use somebody that you know to make an introduction there. But again, all of our alumni are, well, I shouldn't say all, a majority of our alumni are going to be very willing to have conversations with you about what they do. Or if they don't have the time to be able to do it, maybe refer you to somebody that they know. So don't be afraid to kind of use this A as a way to kind of gather information, but also to B as a way to kind of connect and build connections with folks. And I don't think you can certainly, connect with people directly through LinkedIn. You can and mail them if you would like. I think that would be completely fine. But I would also say too, it's probably really useful to do kind of connecting outside of that. So if we were to do kind of an email way to connect with somebody for an information interview, this is a very good, way to kind of build the text of what it is you're going to say. And it's very open-ended. And it's also to something to where you're just asking for a short amount of their time. Don't assume that you should attach a resume. Don't assume that that is, something you're gonna, they're immediately gonna want to kind of look at. But this idea is you can offer to say, I can send you more information if you would like. And make sure that you're not asking for a job or asking for help. You're asking for their time to have a conversation about what they do. The asking for their help to finding a job could come after you've had this conversation. But if you start off with, if you come out of the box with, hey, I'm looking for a job at your organization, that can be a very easy turnoff for somebody. And they're maybe less interested in wanting to have a conversation. And then if you did get a favorable response back, here are the times that I'm available, and this idea is that, you want to keep your availability as flexible as possible. You also too want to, if at all possible, get back to them as soon as you can if they're offering to help have a conversation with you. And again, like I say, their time is more valuable than your time. So if they're fitting you into their schedule, you try to be as flexible as you possibly can. And again, you can change this wording whatever way it seems and feels to make the most sense for you. If you're going to happen to do a phone call, this is things you want to kind of remember and confirm everything ahead of time. Pay attention to your email communication with them because it could be your reflection of how they would see you as a potential colleague or future employee. If you're doing something virtually over Zoom, sending all this Zoom information, you offer to set up the Zoom, you offer to set things up for them unless they're wanting to do it on their end. What you want to kind of think about allowing for too is that paying close attention, allowing for them to be able to meet in whatever contact makes the most sense for you. And I think you can do this virtually or over the phone as well as you could do it in person. So don't be worried about that. I will just say when you are setting up virtual meetings, pay attention to the time zones just because you don't want to get something mixed up there as well. All right. So kind of, overarching kind of takeaways from an information interview. So you have to kind of think about it as you're developing a new professional relationship with somebody that's working at an organization you have of interest, or that you're learning more about a field of public health that you don't know much about that you're very interested in, or you're becoming more informed about the steps that it would take to get a job. So maybe you can learn what someone's failures that they did that they can guide you to do a little bit differently, or maybe they're going to give you some advice about these are the things that worked well for me, and those would be things you can kind of replicate. Or you can think about the purpose of the information interview is maybe it gives you more confidence about opportunities. Yeah, there is more work out there than I thought, or there are more ways to do this work than I initially thought that they were. So hopefully the conversations you have with folks will get you more interested in thinking about what are the possibilities for a job. And then kind of, in any type of the follow-up with them, you just want to make sure, thanking them for the time, like I mentioned before, if they give you any information to look at, research it. But we get a lot of times questions like, how do I follow up with somebody? So a good idea is to set a reminder for yourself about 3 months after you spoken to somebody, if they haven't given you like a lead on a suggested job opportunity, is to allow for you just check back in with them. Maybe you can give them an update about what it is that you've done. If the person you spoke with did give you something that they would do, it is perfectly fine to reach back out to them and say, hey, just a gentle nudge or a reminder to kind of say you were going to send me some of this information or you were going to do this. It is perfectly fine to kind of do that, and you're well within your right, especially if they offer to do that as well. All right, so we'll still have time for Q&A. I got 2 more slides to kind of go through, and then we'll allow for time to have a Q&A. So if we think about the job search, I know all of you are very busy with all of your classes. I know all of you are very busy with project capstones, practicums, maybe some of you are working full-time, doing the degree, whatever it may be. It is a hard thing to kind of keep track of where to search and what to do. I will say it is important to devote some amount of time for your job search and allow for your job search to be something that you don't pause or wait to get done at the very end. So if you can, right now, you're at a very good time. If you're graduating in May, to be thinking about your job search. Everything that I've talked about right now in terms of researching the organizations, thinking about the employers that we've had already for information sessions, or the employers that are coming to the career fair, or going through the job boards. So, right now on January 14th, the jobs that are available are going to look a lot different than May 14th. But then you can kind of think, okay, now there's organizations I'm interested in. Now I can use LinkedIn or OneHop to find alumni. And now I can allow for, a way to build in time to have information interviews. And then I have an information interview, but I'm not going to hear anything until April or something like that. So, you have to kind of think about the job search process. Is a lot of it is out of your control, but you can be proactive with it. But you can allow for yourself to give yourself a lot of time. There is no magic window to say, hey, by this date, you really should be doing your job search. You can do your job search at any point. There's just going to be different kind of starts, movement on it, when it's going to kind of end. But it is, kind of a step-by-step process that I think works. So what I just wanted to mention to you, and again, I will email you this kind of modified document that we have, is this idea of a kind of an employer tracker, but it's also, I think, more of a job tracker more than anything else. So it's based on the book, The 2-Hour Job Search by Steve Dalton. If you've heard about this book, I would encourage you to kind of research it or buy the book. I think it's fairly inexpensive to get through Amazon, but the LAMP method is one of the things that he mentions within his book, which is a quick way to kind of find connections that can help you with your job search. So it kind of covers a lot of things that I've kind of talked about in this. Is you first develop a list of employers that you have of interest. So again, all those steps that I kind of talked about, and you can build this list for as long or as short as you'd want. And then the next step would be is like, well, who are alumni that are working at these places? And then like, how many are there? So you can search for this information through LinkedIn or just information you may find, but maybe you're going to find a number. It's like, at an organization, it looks like there's about 5 or 6 alumni that work there. Well, that to me would say is like, well, this is an organization that could be a potential one because they seem to hire our graduates, or they're looking for people within our roles, or maybe the alumni that are working there have a very good reputation within that organization, and that organization is always interested in considering Bloomberg alumni. And then the next kind of column with this is motivation. So how motivated are you to want to work there? So on a scale of 1 to 5, hey, this is like my dream place, or this is something I've always been interested in. So you rate for yourself like how strongly you want to work at that particular place. And then you can go to their job listings or their career page or whatever it may be and see, well, how many jobs are currently posted? If they have a ton of jobs, you can say, well, maybe that's a very strong potential of, one that I could, kind of lock in on. And if there's not a lot of jobs, don't be discouraged by it. It's still useful to keep on your list. They just might not have any jobs at the time that you're looking. And like I mentioned before, that employer representative saying, what's on their job page is just a snapshot in time. A lot of times too, those jobs that are posted are the ones they haven't filled through referrals or connections or people knowing people. So you just know that not every job, not every organization, their number of jobs is maybe the full picture of what they have available. And then just to kind of add to this too, if you want to break down the industries, of work in terms of what you're interested in, and then get websites, and then you can just continue to add other columns in there. So maybe what you can add in there as well is a date of contact, or maybe what you had a conversation about. So just kind of using this as a kind of organized way to kind of keep track of stuff and allow for you to not feel too overwhelmed, or you can put notes for yourself as the reminders of when I'm going to follow up with somebody as well. All right, so with that, that's most of my presentation. I will open it up for any questions. Let me see a couple things.
Paul, I think we have a few in the chat that came through.
Okay. So data on where international, is that the first one? Yeah. So data where international students are placed. I don't have that. That probably would be a little bit more kind of digging in to some of the data that we get from our employer outcomes report, or I'm sorry, employment outcomes report. But it's probably something I can try to look for to see if we can find, but it just might take a little bit more to get. And then are there restrictions for international students for federal jobs, organizations like NIH? Unfortunately, yes, there are. So I think if you can listen to Marla Lazarus, who gave a talk on Monday or Tuesday about resume writing for federal governments. She also talked a little bit about hiring for federal governments. International students it's more limited in what it is that they're able to do in the federal government, because you have to pass a background check. And in order to do that, you have to be a U.S. citizen or have a green card. But what I would say, if you're looking at organizations that do work for federal government agencies, there's a lot of different contractors that are hired to do work for those companies. And maybe some of those companies would have opportunities, but depending on what you're looking for in the federal government, you just have to be aware that most of the times you're gonna have to pass a background check in order to be employed.
Paul, can I add something there?
Sure.
So Marla also reiterated a few times that CMS does not hire any international students, but there are, like Paul said, there are some branches or agencies that are open to it, but CMS specifically does not have the ability to hire international students.
Sure. And then another question here, is the process for reaching out on LinkedIn different if you want to reach out to a recruiter at the organization? Yes, I think it is. So I think there's two different intents there. So when you're reaching out to an alum, you're reaching out to them, like I say, for information gathering, to build a connection for a potential job later on. So the physical process of doing it through LinkedIn will be the same, in terms of you're finding them through LinkedIn, you're connecting with them through LinkedIn. You can send them an email through LinkedIn if you want to do that, but your intent for wanting to do it is different. You're going to reaching out to recruiters within LinkedIn, or if you're going to go to LinkedIn Jobs and see that there's a recruiter contact for a job there, that one is going to be a bit different, is that you're reaching out to them because you're wanting to express your interest in the job. And so that's going to be a slightly different kind of attitude to kind of take with it. They are looking to hire people. Now, we'll say recruiters, what they're more concerned about filling the job, not about making what you want to be the thing that that is the right match for you. So just kind of keep that in mind. And if you are reached out by recruiters through LinkedIn, you might get a lot of requests from recruiters for LinkedIn for work that you're just not interested in. And so just know that as well, that does happen a lot. If you become active in LinkedIn and you have a profile that people are searching for and things like that, you might get reached out a lot through LinkedIn from recruiters, and they're usually basing upon what you have in your profile. but it might not be necessarily what it is that you're looking to do as you finish your public health training. Well, I'm going to stop sharing here. And if there's anybody that does have questions about anything, please feel free to unmute or put into the chat as well. Oh, go ahead, Joubert.
Yeah, I have a question. When you want to connect, okay, first of all, thank you for this wonderful session.
Sure.
And yeah, and a question like that, like when you connect to alumni or any one-two person you connect, then what is the good like using the email like a personal email account or a university email account, or any benefit of using university email account?
So are you saying for you personally, like what account you'll use to connect?
Gmail, like a
Yeah.
Gmail account, yeah.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
So my first recommendation would be is that if you are, as a student connecting to an alum, it's probably a good idea to use your Hopkins email account to do that outreach, because it'll make it hopefully for them to be an immediate recognition that you are Hopkins, that you're affiliated with Johns Hopkins. However, if you can't, you send it through a personal email, I think that's fine as well. Most of the time too, you'll find when you are searching LinkedIn profiles, most of the time people will use their personal email addresses in there, not their actual business address. So, they're using it, so I don't think it would be a problem for it. But I think when you can, as a student, use your Hopkins one to send the email connection for them. If you're sending something through LinkedIn, it doesn't matter because it's going to be your profile that you're sending. But if you're sending something outside of LinkedIn, use your student one.
Thank you.
Which sector as an international student can we get more chances? International orgs, NGOs, academic institutions? Actually, all three of those. So private companies, and the session that we had on Wednesday, it was touched on there. Private companies have a cap in terms of how many international hires or how many folks that they can sponsor for H-1B visas. But academic institutions, non-governmental organizations, international organizations, they have no cap on what they can hire for. So you will find that there are many, many more chances to find work within those places as an international student. All right. Well, I want to thank all of you for attending today and listening into this. I want to remind everybody here that we have 3 more sessions today on job searching. So at noon, we're going to have a session called Hope is Not a Plan, Proactive Job Searching with Dr. CJ Neely. And then after that, we are going to have one of our alums talk about changing expectations in your job search. It'll just be kind of a Q&A session with him. So I'd welcome you to come. And then I'll have another alum at 3:30 giving a talk about using social media in your job search, and just kind of what she did and what she would recommend and kind of how to use all the platforms of social media. It's going to include LinkedIn, but Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those different things. So I encourage you to come to that as well. All of our sessions will be recorded, and we'll follow up with information and recordings afterwards, or you'll be able to find them back on the Brazen platform. All right, well, thank you all, and have a great rest of your week. And also make sure for weekend and pay attention to things we have coming up next week as well.